Hey guys, welcome back to Anime Gossips. This is my recap for the anime I Was Reincarnated as the Seventh Prince. The story begins with a boy who seems to be in trouble. Crows are flying above his head, and a group of people standing in front of him are laughing. The leader of the group asks the boy to use his magic as a gift to save his life. The boy uses his magic and tries to attack the leader with a fireball, but it doesn't do any damage. They start laughing at him again, saying this is the most that a commoner can do. The leader tells him that the great father of sorcery has said that for a magic user, it becomes important to have blood relation, talent, and focus to be strong. He asks him not to misunderstand him. For a magic user, effort should be the first priority. But magic will never shine for a commoner like him. He uses his magic and attacks the boy. The attack strikes, and he starts screaming so loud that crows fly away and everything is disturbed. He starts burning, but suddenly realizes that magic is so powerful, which can only be used by a gifted noble. He feels it is so hot, painful, and surprisingly beautiful as well. He finds it amazing. As he turns into ashes, he thinks if he has a wish, then he wants to learn and master the magic. Elsewhere, a baby opens his eyes and sees some maids standing in front of him. He gets confused and starts asking himself where he is, and who these giants are. He thinks they are the enemy and tries to defend himself with fireball magic. He then realizes that his hands are smaller, but manages to strike a powerful fireball attack on the roof, causing serious damage. Meanwhile, people standing outside the castle see the fireworks and start celebrating. A kid starts running with joy, saying that it's a great day as it's the birth of Prince Lloyd, the Saloon Kingdom's seventh prince. Back in the castle, the maids standing around Lloyd seem surprised by the fireball attack, which breaks the roof of the castle. Lloyd smiles while smoke comes from his finger, as a small magic does so much destruction. After some years, peace and happiness spread throughout the kingdom. People are happily doing business and walking around. Back in the castle, maids are searching for Lloyd everywhere. They decide to go in another direction to search for the prince. Meanwhile, Lloyd is hiding behind a statue and finds that the maids are gone. He starts running in the opposite direction where he is stopped by two men. Lloyd asks them to keep silent and not to tell the maids that they saw him. They agree with Lloyd and ask him to join them in hunting to experience some royal things. However, Lloyd runs away from there. One of them asks why they need his favor as the seventh prince will not be able to get the crown. His senior replies that he is not like others. He started speaking shortly after birth. He reads spell books instead of picture books like others. Also, he refuses breast milk like the way any gentleman would. And more than that, he thinks Prince Lloyd is the reincarnation of the great sage William Bordeaux. But his friend tells him it's ridiculous as he is the reincarnation of a great sage. Meanwhile, Lloyd runs downstairs and says he's right that he is someone reincarnated, as he was just a commoner in his past life. Elsewhere, maids are searching for him and asking him to come out. But Lloyd is busy thinking about why his past memories are still intact, and wonders why he was born as the seventh son of the royal family. He refuses to care about these things and follows the same philosophy he did in his past life, finding out how awesome magic can be in the palace. He enters a library and is amazed by the magic books collection, thinking it would have all magic information. He pulls out a book, but Silpha catches him from behind. Silpha and Lloyd then engage in sword fighting. Lloyd stops and asks why he needs to learn sword fights as he is the seventh prince, and far away from getting the throne. Silpha replies that it's important for Lloyd to learn handling swords as a member of the royal family. 3 years ago, she was in charge of teaching him, and now this has become the purpose of her life. Lloyd understands that if he doesn't show any good results to Silpha, she will make him practice until evening. They start practicing again, and this time Silpha praises his moves. Lloyd observes how Silpha attacks, so he starts using control-type magic, in which he can trace all of Silpha's moves. It's like fighting a mirror image of her. In other words, he is cheating, because he wants to go and read. But Lloyd keeps losing against her attacks. He finds that her stamina, height, and strength are higher than his, which is why he keeps losing. He can copy her techniques, but these physical differences will always make him lose. Lloyd uses biotic growth, strength enhancement, and levitation magic to match Silpha's levels. He starts matching her level and giving her tough competition. They start fighting seriously. Lloyd thinks that he is copying her attack and she is fighting a mirror image. But what if he suddenly made a different move? He releases the trace magic and goes for an attack, feeling sorry for Silpha. But Silpha counters his attack and tells him that she knows he is cheating, and ends the battle with a hit on his head. Silpha says that she already noticed the difference in his attacks, and how he grew the wooden sword and levitated to match the height difference, and was almost able to match the differences in their level. Silpha suddenly becomes happy, saying that he is so amazing and talented that he can use 2 magic spells at a time, which is even difficult for the court's magician. She tells him that she will not force him anymore. He can grow on his own. She blesses him for his future and says she will keep him company. Lloyd finds that she didn't notice his physical enhancement and control magic, as he is using 4 spells at a time, and he will keep it a secret. Silpha takes him to the maid's bath, and the maids are enjoying as Silpha is helping Lloyd to get a bath. However, he wants to study magic. He seems frustrated and asks to be left alone as he can bathe by himself. Silpha refuses and says if she does that, he will go and read books only, instead of taking a bath. Now other maids try to make Lloyd scared. If he behaves like bad boys, then the demon from the forbidden library will gobble him up. Lloyd gets surprised as there's a forbidden library with a demon. They say a long time ago Saloon was nearly destroyed, and after many sacrifices of countless mages, the demon named Grimoire was sealed away in a book, which was kept in the forbidden library. Silpha says it might be a made-up story, even if it's real. What could a demon that's already sealed in a book do? And that's ridiculous. Even Prince Lloyd wouldn't be afraid of him. However, Lloyd seemed afraid, and the maids got worried for him, and everyone asked him to sleep with them if he is afraid. But Silpha says as she is his teacher, he will sleep in her room only. They decide that Lloyd will sleep in the maids' dorms, but Silpha refuses. Lloyd sneaks away from them and gets excited for the underground forbidden library. At night, Lloyd goes down the castle to find the forbidden library and uses an air-class spell, Concealment, to become invisible to others. There are 2 guards there. One of them seems tired, and the other tells him to stay awake, as the demon sealed inside can shake the whole kingdom if it's released. Listening to what the guard says, Lloyd confirms that the library is downstairs. The guards say even if someone passes them to enter the library. Then there is a powerful sealing spell on the entrance which is cast by 10 strong mages to create an unbreakable barrier. However, Lloyd breaks the barriers easily using his magical power and enters the library. It gets him excited as he has been living in the castle for 10 years and found this exciting library today. Lloyd says he will replace the barrier outside the door after reading the books. He sits down to read a book, but suddenly the demon starts moving the book in which he sealed. Grimoire tells him he's impressed as he was able to break the door's seal. Grimoire asks Lloyd to free him in exchange for gold. As the seal is getting weaker with time, it will surely break soon. Lloyd picks the gold and says that the gold is created from dust by creation magic. Lloyd says he is also going to replace the seal once he finishes reading books. He says his study of magic is based outside the kingdom, and he can't let some dangerous demon threaten it. Grimoire says that the magician who sealed him lived centuries ago, and he doesn't have any problem with today's people. However, Lloyd says he doesn't believe him. Grimoire offers him to teach ancient magic that was lost hundreds of years ago, in exchange for breaking the seal, and he thinks Lloyd is interested in it. After hearing about ancient magic, he asks Grimoire if he'll teach him. Grimoire says Lloyd has a lot of potential to learn them. Lloyd remembers what happened in the past, as the leader told him magic will never smile upon a commoner like him. Back to the present, Lloyd tells Grimoire if magic is linked to lineage and talent, then he's a more privileged body than any commoner. Lloyd makes a key with magic and breaks the seal. Grimoire can't believe that Lloyd has broken the seal. Lloyd asks Grimoire to teach ancient magic like he promised, but Grimoire attacks him with Arctis Obscura, a powerful magic attack. However, Lloyd creates a barrier around him to defend against the attack, and gets amazed to see this type of unique spell. He asks Grimoire to show him some more magic like this. Grimoire gets furious and starts attacking him multiple times, but it doesn't make a single scratch on Lloyd's barrier. Lloyd gets excited after seeing the magic and wants to feel the magic by himself. He finds this as a bad habit which can finish him again, but he still picks the magic in his finger and feels the pain and how beautiful it looks. Lloyd asks him to show what else he can do. Grimoire gets angry and starts a dual incantation and makes a powerful fireball attack called Arctis Obscura Forta. Lloyd starts thinking that this attack is stronger as it is a double incantation of the spell, which will lead to more damage. But the attack leaves no damage on Lloyd's barrier. Grimoire is shocked that his most powerful attack can't cause any damage to Lloyd. He praises Grimoire's magic and finds it interesting. He says it must have been a lot of fun to learn magic. Grimoire gets scared and tries to run away, but he's stopped by a barrier. It's created by Lloyd, which stops him from going toward the castle. Grimoire asks if he thinks that he is going to run away, but Lloyd says of course not. He just wants to be careful. As in the past, he made a big mistake, blowing up the castle's rooftop. Grimoire gets angry and plans to attack Lloyd, but Lloyd stops him, saying he already knows that. Lloyd asks him to show his defensive power against his attack. He uses a powerful magic attack called Pilance Insinis on Grimoire. Grimoire is surprised by the power of the attack and gets defeated. Lloyd comes near Grimoire and asks him why he didn't defend. After some time, Lloyd starts restoring the library to its original state. Grimoire calls Lloyd his master and says that he has perfectly restored the room after it had been blown to bits. He says he hasn't met a magician like him before. Lloyd praises him and tells him that demons can't be eliminated with magic. Grimoire replies they don't, but it hurts them. Lloyd wonders how many attacks he can survive, but Grimoire gets scared of him and says he will obey him and serve him as a familiar. Lloyd asks him to turn small and come in his pocket. Grimoire turns small, thinking he will take control of his mind and occupy his body. But after coming close to Lloyd, he starts shaking with fear, as Lloyd's mana is so dense. Lloyd asks Grimoire if he has a cold, but Grimoire says he is alright, and asks Lloyd to call him Grim from now on. He finds Lloyd is sure a monster with high magical powers, and decides to stay obedient as of now. Lloyd is excited as he's going to read magical books in the Forbidden Library. After returning from the Forbidden Library, Lloyd is reading magic books in the castle library. His older brother Albert enters the library, and Lloyd is happy to see him. In the training ground, Albert starts practicing his magic. He hits the target perfectly, impressing everyone. Lloyd says that Albert is really good at magic, and mentions that Albert is the second prince for the Saloon throne, and he is also physically capable as well as smart. People talk about the possibility of him becoming the next king. Lloyd also mentions that Albert has the authority to access all the facilities of the castle, and he invites him to join them. Lloyd says this is a rare chance that he is allowed to use magic inside the castle, and he is grateful for this. Albert tells Lloyd that it's his turn to use magic, and Lloyd agrees. Lloyd says he doesn't care about being the king of Saloon. Also, he doesn't want to get involved in the race for the throne. All he wants is to study magic without getting people's attention. He thinks he only needs to aim correctly to hit the targets. Grim says it's hard to hit them without causing damage. Lloyd uses his magic and hits all the targets. Everyone standing there starts clapping. One man says hitting targets seems to be the best Lloyd can do. Grim gets frustrated and calls the man a dumbass, saying Lloyd actually managed to graze all the targets, which is impressive. Lloyd thinks it's good to add rotation to fireballs because it makes them more stable without using much energy. Grim thinks Lloyd is crazy about magic. Albert tells Lloyd he's taking a break, and Lloyd can play around if he wants. Lloyd tells Grim it's great because he has an empty place to practice, and he wants to try many things. He says for now he wants to try doing a double incantation at once like Grim. Grim says it's impossible because only demons can do that, since they have two mouths. Lloyd uses magic and puts Grim in his hand and says it worked. Grim warns that if someone can do that, they shouldn't try to absorb a demon into their body. Lloyd says, let's try it out. Lloyd asks Grim if he can use Pilance Insinis. Grim reminds Lloyd that he's a demon, so casting advanced magic will be easy, and then they start casting the spell. But Grim seems shocked, and Lloyd asks what is wrong with him. Grim says that he should be the one asking questions, and asks what exactly he was doing. Lloyd says that it was just a spell stack. Spell stacking is a method to combine the incantations of multiple spells to make them faster. Lloyd is trying 100 different incantations using this method. Grim is surprised and says it doesn't work like that. He explains that a single stack usually has 2 or 3 spells at once, but Lloyd says it'll take forever this way. Lloyd realizes that he can talk from his hand too, and he can talk from both mouths at once. Grim asks if he's trying to cast 2 advanced incantations at the same time. Lloyd says sorry as he needs to use the hand for some time. He starts casting 2 incantations at once, Pilance Insinis and Aquilance Cascadia. Grim gets shocked and asks what's happening, saying it's unbelievable that Lloyd is using 2 different advanced spells together. Grim notices a huge surge of magical energy. He thinks it's not safe to aim this powerful attack at anything, not even a target. Lloyd uses the magic, creating a massive magic circle, and aims the attack towards the sky. Meanwhile, inside the castle, An underling asked Prince Albert why he is giving so much attention to the 7th prince. Albert replies that they didn't recognize talent. He explains Lloyd's fireball grazed all the targets in the same way because he did it intentionally. Albert believes Lloyd is a prodigy, and he might become a grand sage someday, and he thinks that Lloyd would be a great asset to him someday. The other underling says it isn't surprising that Prince Albert could obtain the service of a grand sage. Albert denies this, saying he just wants to get along with his brother. He mentions that Lloyd might have already hit all the targets by now. The first underling thinks this is an exaggeration. Looking out the window, he asks if the sun has already gone down. Meanwhile, Grim was surprised by Lloyd's attack. He says, Lloyd blew a hole in the sky, and now night is shining through. Lloyd looks at the sky and starts panicking. Grim is amazed, thinking what's going on with Lloyd. Next day, Grim is reading the newspaper, where it mentions a mysterious hole in the heavens. Is it bizarre weather or a bad omen? He shows it to Lloyd and mentions that his yesterday's stunt is in the news. Lloyd says he was panicked for a moment there. Suddenly, he notices something on the newspaper and points out a news article about an adventure company that cleared a difficult dungeon and brought back powerful items. Lloyd suggests they should go to a dungeon, but Grim reminds him that he can't leave because everyone will freak out if they don't see him in the castle. Lloyd says to him that a little magic and ingenuity will take care of that. Then Lloyd uses a spell to turn an acorn into a perfect replica of himself. Grim is amazed by the magic and says it's incredible, and the replica looks exactly like Prince Lloyd. Lloyd says this replica looks exactly like the real thing, not just in how it looks, but also in the way its resin bones and skin mimic the real ones. And even the roots act as a model of the circulatory system. It can even make some simple movements by itself. Grim thinks having a double like this could help him escape, but Lloyd denies it, saying if it were that easy, he would have done it already. As the real problem is Silpha. Lloyd says that Silpha notices everything about him, as she noticed that he has grown by about 0.07 millimeters recently. He doubts he can fool her with a copy that can only act silly, which is why he left Grim with the replica. Lloyd leaves the castle by flying. While flying, he asks Grim if he can hear him. Grim replies that he can, and the picture is clear through his one eye too. Lloyd asks how things are going on Grim's end. Grim says he's not sure, but he thinks things are going fine. The maids notice Lloyd and say that the prince is paying more attention to his looks today, and his collar isn't turned up like usual, and they find him really cute. Grim thinks that Lloyd doesn't seem to understand when to stop, as he was putting Grim's mind into the doll and then attaching his body separately. Lloyd asks Grim to keep an eye on Silpha and act like him. Grim agrees, and he finds the puppet amazing, which also has mana circulation. Grim feels relieved that Lloyd is out of the picture, so he can do what he wants without interruptions. Lloyd tells Grim that he's really happy to have him as his familiar, and he's counting on him. Grim tells Lloyd not to worry about it, just go and come back quickly. Lloyd realizes that he left the castle without any trouble, but he doesn't know where the dungeon is. Suddenly, he sees a girl being chased by monsters. The girl fights back with bare hands against the monsters and defeats them all. Lloyd notices how she's breathing and thinks she must be a skilled martial artist. Lloyd says he read in a book that in foreign countries, people use an energy called ki through their bodies by breathing to perform amazing techniques. The girl sees Lloyd hiding and asks who he is. Lloyd is surprised that she was able to see him from far away. He decides to ask her about the dungeon and key. Grim warns Lloyd that if he goes out now, he'll be recognized as the 7th Prince of Saloon. The girl sees him as an enemy because Lloyd didn't respond. She quickly moves towards Lloyd, ready to attack. Lloyd changes his appearance and introduces himself as Robert, saying he is a rookie adventurer. The girl is shocked by his looks. Lloyd used a magic spell to change how he looked, but he could only transform into people he had seen before. Lloyd combined 2 spells which he learned from Grim to create a completely new form that nobody had seen before. In one hand, Lloyd held his original appearance, and in the other hand, he had Albert's body. By merging these, he created a unique body. She says her name is Tao, and she is a B-rank adventurer. Lloyd asks Grim if she had noticed anything suspicious, but Grim says it doesn't seem like that. Tao finds Lloyd hot, and thinks that she has spent 18 years training before leaving her martial arts school hoping to meet someone. She has been disappointed because guys always liked delicate girls, but now she felt lucky. She decides Lloyd would be her boyfriend. Lloyd suggests clearing a dungeon together, and Tao instantly agrees. They enter a dungeon, and Tao starts showing off her skills. She asks Lloyd if he sees how strong she is, and if he has fallen for her because of it. Meanwhile, Lloyd is busy collecting glowing rocks, not paying attention to Tao. Lloyd asks Tao if she is adventuring alone, and she says yes, as she hasn't found any good men yet. But Grim wonders why Tao has chosen Lloyd. While eating, Lloyd, who is transformed into Robert, asks Tao if she uses Ki when she attacks the monsters. Tao asks if Robert knows about Ki, because not many people on the continent are familiar with it. Lloyd explains that Ki is similar to mana and magic, and how her breathing is important to use Ki. Tao is impressed to see that Robert noticed her using this. She explains that her training revolves around breathing and using it to circulate Ki, which gives her extraordinary power. Tao says that feeling the Ki in her body takes a lot of practice, but she has a feeling that he'll be able to use it easily. Robert starts practicing breathing. Tao notices it when Robert seems to be struggling. She asks him if he is just doing Ki breathing. Robert agrees and says he's trying to copy the way she did it, but it's pretty hard. Tao is amazed but explains that if he is not used to it, Ki breathing can make his lungs feel like they're on fire. However, Robert feels a separate energy in his body from mana. Robert believes in himself that he can use this power, and it will be useful for magic. Tao is impressed and offers to teach Robert more about Ki. Robert thanks Tao, and she asks him to keep up the breathing until they leave the dungeon. Meanwhile, Grim starts thinking that Lloyd is weird. He's living the good life, but he doesn't care about any of it, and he only shows interest in studying magic. Sylpha finds Lloyd and walks near him, without realizing it is a clone. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, Tao uses a powerful Ki blast to defeat the dungeon boss, Grey Wolf. They decide to open the treasure chest now as the boss is finished. Tao says that the treasure inside the undeveloped dungeon can't be too impressive. Robert finds it interesting that the treasure chest only opens after defeating the boss. Tao says that Robert seems more interested in the treasure. Robert becomes curious about what's inside. Tao notices that Robert is trying to learn Ki breathing quickly, and thinks maybe she has found a winner for herself, and her grandfather would approve him as her fiancé. Robert suggests opening the treasure, and Tao agrees, but she doubts there might be anything good in it. As they open the box, they're suddenly attacked by a powerful force that cuts through the ground. Suddenly, a Lich comes out from under the box. Robert asks if it's a new boss. Tao says the boss monster is a Lich. Robert asks Tao what type of creature a Lich is. Tao reassures him and tells him to leave the dungeon. However, Robert wants to stay and watch. Tao then pushes Robert out of the dungeon using Ki power, thinking it will keep him safe, but it may cause some damage. Now, the Lich starts attacking Tao. She tries to dodge the attacks and is surprised to find that such a weak dungeon has a strong monster like a Lich. She thinks that even a ranked adventurers would struggle against it. Then Tao decides to distract the monster to give Robert enough time to escape. Robert finds that Tao made him fly in the air to send him out of the dungeon, but he's still curious about Ki in dungeons. He uses his magic barrier to stop there, and the magic barrier eliminates 2 small monsters. He wonders if it's a good idea to return to the dungeon when he doesn't know why Tao sent him away. He asks Grim what he thinks to clear things up, but Grim doesn't respond. He sounds scared and asks Lloyd to come home soon to help him. Meanwhile, Tao gets hurt while fighting with the Lich monster. She realizes she can't win and may be eliminated soon. Then she thinks that Robert might have escaped, so maybe she should also try to escape. The Lich found that Tao is using Ki techniques, which are a kind of foreign magic. He mentions that he has eaten someone with similar abilities before, but he thought it was just a lower form of magic. He explains that by eating the souls of adventurers, he gained his wisdom and skills. The Lich tells Tao that she wasn't worth eating, but he mentions that Robert reacted quickly to his attack. Tao replies that he and Robert are different. She feels Robert even finds something interesting about a small pebble on the road, which makes her happy. She mentions that people on the continent don't value Ki techniques much, but Robert got impressed after knowing about it. Lich asks her why he should care. Then Tao uses her Ki techniques to attack him, but a barrier protects him. Lich says it's a waste of time, but Tao continues to attack and says she also doesn't care. Since she was 5 years old, every day she has been training to use Ki power. No matter if it rained or snowed, she focused only on training, doing nothing else like getting a boyfriend. She unleashes a full power Ki blast at close range and breaks through Lich's barrier, warning him not to mess with her. However, she feels tired and realizes that she can't keep it up because she has used too much Ki. She couldn't move at all, not even her finger. She is shocked to see that the powerful attack she used didn't even scratch the Lich, and realizes he is a powerful monster. Lich says that her skills are weak compared to his, and mentions that she has wasted her life trying to fight him. Then, the Lich uses a powerful attack on her, but Robert arrives and saves her, asking her if she is giving up. He says to Tao that he is taking over the fight because he needs to return home as soon as possible, and he will defeat the Lich quickly. Tao asks Robert if it is a barrier and why he is there. Robert suddenly appears behind the Lich using a spell. When the Lich sees this, he gets shocked and asks if Robert just used an air class spell, Full Sprint, which is very fast. The Lich is surprised because it is not possible without incantation. Then Lich tries to attack Robert, but Robert makes a strong protective shield around himself. Robert thinks of combining ki and mana at the same time. Lich is surprised as he is not able to break his barrier. Robert feels like he is getting closer to figuring something out. He remembers that Tao told him to focus, so he takes a deep breath and uses the Full Sprint spell again. Lich attacks him again, but it doesn't make a single scratch. Robert broke his own barrier as it was getting in his way of activating his ki. Lich thinks Robert's barrier was broken due to his magic and starts attacking him. But Tao notices that Robert broke the barrier himself to get more air and become stronger. Robert begins combining ki and mana while dodging the Lich's attacks. He uses the combination of ki and mana to counter the Lich's attack. He realizes it wasn't strong enough to reach Lich and thinks that the magic needed to be thinner to travel farther. Robert starts attacking, but Lich uses his magic to protect himself. However, Robert keeps attacking over and over again. Instead of getting scared, Robert seems to be enjoying the fight and says that he still has more ideas to try out. He asks Lich to let him enjoy the fight. Then Lich notices that Robert is attacking very fast without even using incantation, and he wonders if these are the key techniques. Lich is surprised because he thought Robert was a mage, and he couldn't understand how these simple key techniques could match his sorcery. Now Robert has started making his attacks even faster and sharper. He attacks with powerful magic and cuts Lich with his barrier into 2 pieces, and the Lich disappears after being eliminated. Robert says he figured it out. After the fight, Tao and Robert go back to the treasure chest, where Tao says that this was a big waste of time as inside the treasure chest they found a knife. Tao felt disappointed, saying all that trouble, and this is all they got. Robert thought the knife might be enchanted with mana. She doubts about the enchantment if it's good or not. Robert asks her if he can keep the knife, and Tao agrees. Suddenly, Robert notices the treasure chest sinking down and asks what is happening. Tao explains that this is what happens when the treasure is taken and the dungeon starts to fall apart. Then Robert says it's similar to a lizard detaching its tail to survive. He explains that the treasure chest is the core of a dungeon, which grows slowly around magical items dropped by people. When adventurers fail to defeat the dungeon, it absorbs their gear and grows stronger. And when it seems like the dungeon will be cleared, it offers one of the items it absorbed to escape. Robert finds this survival mechanism fascinating. Tao doesn't seem interested and asks to run because the dungeon is collapsing. Robert quickly grabs the treasure chest, and they leave the dungeon before it closes. Robert talks about how dungeons gather strength underground and become dungeons again. Tao comes to know that Robert is an incredible mage. She asks him why he used key techniques instead of magic in the fight. She wonders if he did it for her, or if he was teasing her. Robert says he thought it would be fun. Then Robert realizes that he forgot about going back home and flies away from there. Tao tells Robert about the special move he used at the end, called the Keyblade, and she thinks even she couldn't use it properly yet. Tao decides to train more to become a fascinating girl. Robert thinks that's a great idea and mentions he always enjoys improving himself, whether it's magic or key techniques. He suggests they should improve together and leaves from there. Tao then says she needs to work on herself so she could catch Robert's attention, but she realizes he hasn't told her where he lives, so she screams out, asking him to let her know how to find him. Robert transforms back into Lloyd and returns to the castle. He enters through a window and asks Grimm if he is okay. Inside, Grimm is badly bitten, thinking about Silpha and explaining what has happened. Grimm tells Lloyd that while training, Silpha found him too weak and punished him. He sadly mentions that despite being a demon, he doesn't stand a chance against her. Grimm tearfully complains to Lloyd that he had promised to come back quickly. Lloyd apologizes to him. After some time, Grimm asks Lloyd if he was late because of the useless knife. Lloyd says sorry again and tells him that the knife is very special as it is enhanced. Then he puts the knife in hot water and removes a layer to reveal mana essence, which is used for enchantment magic. This means anyone can write magic formulas on the weapon to make it stronger. Lloyd guesses the knife has been enchanted to boost power. Grimm asks Lloyd if he can study enchantment magic too, but Lloyd says it's not that easy. He does some experiments and finds that magic words should be written in an order so that it can work. If done wrongly, then it will fail and both the essence and the weapon are wasted. He uses a water class spell and says that they're going to analyze the magic essence and make some themselves. He explains that usually water spells are used to purify dirty water, but if they keep making it pure, it can separate all the base elements. Lloyd finally finds that it's made from oil, silver, and hematite. Then Grimm says hematite is made from powdering a monster's core, and that's plenty rare. Lloyd says they have the dungeon's core, and he can make some from it. Both get excited and say now they need to get oil, silver, and make a lot of weapons. Lloyd goes to get silver coins from his father. His father asks if he's sure he doesn't want gold instead, but Lloyd says silver is okay. His father thinks Lloyd is humble and wonders what he'll spend the money on. Lloyd starts melting the silver with Grimm's magic. Then, Lloyd needs to defeat Silpha to get some oil. He uses magic to run faster, but Silpha still outsmarts him because she can catch him. Then Lloyd tries another magic spell, but Silpha hides and defeats him. Even though Silpha wins, she still gives Lloyd the oil. Lloyd asks if she's sure because he was supposed to only get it if he wins. Silpha says it's okay, and she's actually happy. She thinks the other day Lloyd performed poorly might be because he was having a bad day, but now she realizes it was just a fluke. Grimm, looking outside from the window, says even though he is not using magic, he's shocked she defeated him. Silpha starts thinking that Lloyd is so skilled with both magic and a sword at just 10 years old, and he could become a top knight commander when he grows up, and maybe even too good for the rank of a swordmaster. Lloyd heads out from there, promising her to fight once he's finished his work. Silpha hopes whatever he's cooking turns out great. Lloyd starts mixing silver, oil, and hematite to make mana essence. Lloyd then goes to Albert and asks for weapons to try out enhancing them. Albert jokingly says it's a cute request, and asks if Lloyd really loves magic. Lloyd confirms that he does, and mentions that since Albert has a lot of royal guards, he thought he might have some spare weapons. Albert asks his guards if anyone is willing to let Lloyd strengthen their weapon. The guards take out all their swords, but they are hesitant because enchantment magic is difficult and doesn't always work well, and also they were talking about letting a 10-year-old do it. One guard says that they are giving something they need to work on to a kid to play with it. Grimm says loudly that now they have the weapons, they're gonna make them even more powerful by enchanting them a lot. Grimm notices that Lloyd is adding 3 layers of boost power on a sword, and he's filling every available spot with spell formulas. Lloyd breaks the sword while enhancing it because he puts too many spells on it. He feels bad because the steel couldn't handle the magic. Grimm tells him that this is just the beginning and cheers him up. Lloyd fails so many times but eventually succeeds. He gets happy to see it worked. Grimm says he knew Lloyd could do it. Lloyd thinks it was really amazing. The next day, Lloyd shows the improved weapons to Albert and apologizes for wasting 70 out of 120. But Albert is surprised to see that 50 swords were successful. Lloyd thought he would have succeeded with 80 swords, but he added more spells and failed. Albert is shocked to see the sword, and thinks that top enchanters only have a success rate of 10%, and Lloyd did it better. Albert finds that Lloyd might be even more talented than he realizes. Then a guard asks another one if it's really amazing. Another guard disagrees, believing it's obviously not true. They think Lloyd probably stopped trying after ruining 70 swords, as the remaining 50 look normal, and wonder even if the sword is sharper now. When the guard tries to put the sword in its sheath, it cuts into 2 pieces. Then Albert is surprised to see a highly enhanced sword. Lloyd says he hopes to see them used in battle if possible. Albert agrees and asks if Lloyd wants to come along with him, as their father has a task for him to go on a monster hunt, and Lloyd gets happy after hearing that. And that's the end of the video. Please comment and let me know if you want a recap of the next episode of this anime. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Till then, goodbye.